Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. We'll start with the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos receives written messages from His Highness the President of the United Arab Emirates and the Prime Minister of Singapore. On behalf of His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Sayyid Shihab bin Tariq Al Saeed receives His Excellency the Vice President and Prime Minister of Yemen. Representing His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Sayyid Shihab bin Tariq Al Saeed heads the Sultanate's delegation to the 15th consultation meeting of the GCC countries in Riyadh. And instilling values and traditions in children tops discussions of child culture seminar in Nizwa. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in details. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has received a written message from His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates, concerning strong brotherly relations binding the two countries and ways of supporting them in all fields. The message was received on behalf of His Majesty by His Excellency Sayyid Khalid bin Hilal Al Busaidi, Minister of the Diwan of the Royal Court, when he met in his office this morning His Excellency Hamad bin Abdurrahman Al Midfa, Secretary General of the Supreme Council Union Affairs at the Ministry of Presidency Affairs of the United Arab Emirates, envoy of the President of the UAE. During the meeting, they exchanged cordial talks and reviewed good bilateral relations between the two countries. His Majesty the Sultan also received a written congratulatory message from His Excellency Lee Hsing Long, Prime Minister of Singapore, to forward sincere greetings on behalf of himself and the Singaporean nation on the return of His Majesty the Sultan to his homeland. The message was handed over to His Excellency Yusuf bin Alawi bin Abdullah, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs, when he met His Excellency Albert Chu, Second Permanent Deputy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Singapore, in his office today in the General Diwan of the Ministry. During the meeting, they also discussed ways of boosting bilateral relations. On behalf of His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Sayyid Shihab bin Tariq Al Saeed received in his office today His Excellency Khalid Mahmoud Bahah, Vice President and Prime Minister of Yemen. During the meeting, the guests conveyed sincere greetings and best wishes from His Excellency President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi of Yemen to His Majesty the Sultan and the Omani nation. On his part, His Highness also conveyed His Majesty's greetings to the Yemeni President. They further reviewed the strong brotherly relations binding the two countries and the existing cooperation between them in all fields, in addition to a number of matters of mutual concern. Representing His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Sayyid Shihab bin Tariq Al Saeed heads to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia tomorrow to lead the Sultanate's delegation to the 15th consultation meeting of the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, due to be held in Riyadh. He will be accompanied by His Excellency Yusuf bin Alawi bin Abdullah, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Mas'ud Al-Sinaidi, Minister of Commerce and Industry, His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Muhammad Al-Saidi, Minister of Legal Affairs, His Excellency Ahmed bin Yusuf Al-Harthi, Under Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Diplomatic Affairs, and His Excellency Sayyid Dr. Ahmed bin Hilal Al-Busaidi, Sultanate's Ambassador accredited to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. A number of aspects concerning relations between the Sultanate and Singapore top discussions of His Excellency Mohammed bin Nasser Al-Rasbi, Secretary General of the Ministry of Defense, with His Excellency Albert Chu, Second Permanent Deputy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Singapore, and his delegation. They also reviewed existing cooperation between the two friendly countries. His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Mas'ud Al-Sinaidi, Minister of Commerce and Industry, stressed that the fastest e-transaction was completed in 3 minutes from outside the ministry through the One-Stop Station project. This came within the ministry's efforts of establishing a strong infrastructure for e-commerce register. His Excellency added that the ministry will only accept the electronic register. Citizens will no longer have to go to the ministry's premises. The main committee on the project of the Sultanate's unified addressing system has approved the proposed mechanism to carry out this project and to guarantee the dynamic data update continuously. That came during the meeting of the committee held at the National Center for Statistics and Information, where they approved the tasks and roles and specified specialized committees for the technical and field work. The addressing project, that depends on the best international practices and applications, is considered part of the government's approach towards a smart digital government and to link all government institutions with one database to facilitate the ease of access to users benefiting from the government services. His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser al-Bakri, Minister of Manpower, explained to the Shura members the strategy followed by the ministry to manage the labor market and his plans to provide job seekers with opportunities. More details with Saif bin Khalfan al-Kindi in the following report.
During the second day, His Excellency the Minister of Manpower explained to the Shura members several labor issues and the remedial plans tackled by the ministry to solve them. Many members called for issuing the labor law that could organize the relations between the employer and employees in the job market. His Excellency pointed out that it's under revision by the Economy Committee of the Minister's Cabinet and expected to be sent to the Shura Council for a final revision. Some other members asked His Excellency for more efforts towards the inspections of illegal workers and taking vital decisions to solve such labor problems. During the session, there was a discussion on immunization in the category of technical education and making use of the available jobs opportunities in the academic sector. Moreover, His Excellency displayed many statistical charts showing the progress achieved in the technical education based on the academic streams. Saif al-Kindi for English News, Muscat.
Reviewing the National Innovation System, acquainting with its basic pillars and discussing ways of improving it topped the discussions of the first workshop for the National Supervisory Committee and technical committees of the National Innovation Strategy Program. The workshop witnessed participation of a group of representatives of government and private authorities to discuss the topics of the National Innovation Strategy, in addition to increase cooperation of efforts among concerned bodies. Participants in a Ru'ya Economic Forum 2015 forwarded a cable of thanks to His Majesty Sultan Qaboos. They expressed their utmost greetings and heartfelt wishes for His Majesty, praying to Almighty Allah to endow His Majesty with continued health and happiness. They thanked His Majesty for enhancing the development march and supporting the national economy through encouraging investments. In the forum, in its fourth round, came this year under the title Oman Investment Opportunities. A Ru'ya Economic Forum 2015 in its fourth round discussed the important economic topics to enhance and develop the national economy. The forum, which was held in the Governorate of Muscat, aimed to present the available economic opportunities in the Sultanate and provide new incentives to contribute in developing the local economy and activate the partnership role between public and private sectors. It also reviewed challenges faced by investments and some solutions, as well as the new touristic projects. His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Masood al-Sunaidi, Minister of Commerce and Industry, presided over the opening ceremony, who said that the tourism sector is very important for the domestic economy, adding that there are a number of touristic projects which are currently being implemented in different governorates of the Sultanate. The forum came out with recommendations such as finalizing the tourism strategy, organizing promotion campaigns inside and outside the Sultanate to produce investment opportunities, besides preparing an integrated study for the Sultanate to be the global center for foodstuff. Seeking to spread culture and social responsibilities practices and highlighting the excellent role of the private sector companies, the Oman Chamber of Commerce and Industry celebrated corporate social responsibility initiatives by distributing the Chamber's Award to private sector companies. This was the first edition of these awards. His Highness Sayyid Shihab bin Tariq Al Saeed, His Majesty's advisor, presided over the ceremony. Out of 11 companies, PDO came in the first position, while Oman Indian Fertilizer Company came second, and WJ Towel Group the third. The award gave the opportunities for all companies to get acquainted with successful experiences of companies in the field of corporate social responsibility. And still to come in our news bulletin. The Ministry of Health organizes a celebration on Hand Hygiene World Day. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. French President François Hollande arrived in Doha in Qatar today at the start of a two-nation Gulf trip that will also include a visit to neighboring Saudi Arabia. The centerpiece of Hollande's visit to Qatar was the signing of a €6.3 billion deal to sell 24 Rafale fighter jets to the natural gas-rich nation. He was expected to hold talks with Qatari Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani during his visit before departing later in the day for Saudi Arabia. Hollande's office said he would be the guest of honor on Tuesday at the Gulf Cooperation Council Summit in Riyadh. Qatar is the third overseas buyer of the Delta-winged Rafale, manufactured by France's Dassault Aviation. A suicide bomber struck a minibus carrying government employees in Kabul today, killing at least one person and wounding 13. Afghan Interior Ministry spokesman said the minibus was carrying employees of the Attorney General's office when it was attacked earlier. The Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack in a text message to the media. The attack was the first in the capital since the insurgents launched their annual warm weather offensive on April 24th. Authorities flew in aid supplies and begun work to reopen roads leading to the remote Himalayan region of Donche in central Nepal today. Over a week after the deadly earthquake struck, killing more than 7,000 people. Donche, the administrative seat of Rasua district and the idyllic mountainous region, home to some picturesque postcard villages, has been doubly hit. First by the 7.8 magnitude quake, and then by ensuing landslides that have virtually cut off the region from the rest of the country. An Indian Air Force commander coordinating the airlifting and rescue of the villages said the helicopters have become a vital part of the rescue operation as there were no roads accessible by car. People had to walk on foot to reach the isolated area. Government officials said efforts to step up the pace of delivery of relief material to remote areas were also frustrated by a shortage of supply trucks and drivers, many of whom have returned to their villages to help their families. Several thousand people, mostly from Israel's Jewish Ethiopian minority, protested in Tel Aviv against racism and police brutality today, shutting down a major highway and clashing with riot and mounted police. The protest was mostly peaceful during the day, but by nightfall became violent with at least 20 officers hurt and multiple protesters arrested. Protesters threw rocks and bottles at officers in riot gear. Police deployed officers on horseback and used stun grenades to try and control the crowds in central Tel Aviv. Coinciding with world celebrations of Labor Day, which falls on the 1st of May every year, the General Federation for Oman Trade Unions organizes a ceremony on this occasion. The celebration aims to focus on situations of labor in the private sector and highlight trade union movement roles in the Sultanate, modifying terms and conditions of work in private sector institutions. It was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Masoud al-Sinaidi, Minister of Commerce and Industry. The ceremony included shows reflecting the importance of the work in private sector and the opportunities it provides. Within the National Strategy for Fishermen Awareness in the field of safety, security and protecting marine wealth, 2 workshops on marine safety and security and kingfish fisheries management are inaugurated. The 2 workshops are being organized by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries Wealth in cooperation with Omani Marine Security Center. The ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Hamad bin Saeed Al-Aufi, Under Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries Wealth for Fisheries Wealth. Instilling Values and Traditions in Children, top discussions of the Child's Culture Seminar, which coincides with the celebration of Nizwa, capital of the Islamic culture. The seminar, which was organized by the Ministry of Social Development, aimed to broaden children's understanding of Omani history and culture. It also included work papers to strengthen culture of children in media means. The activities was presided over by His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Zahir Al-Hinai, State's Advisor. The Ministry of Health, represented in the Directorate General for Monitoring and Combating Diseases, organized a celebration on Hand Hygiene World Day. The ceremony included a campaign for World Health Organization, which is considered one of the annual international campaigns, Save Lives, Clean Your Hands, and which aimed to enhance hand hygiene at the level of central and referral hospitals in the Sultanate. The ceremony seeks to encourage health workers and contribute in uplifting awareness of the importance of hand hygiene inside health institutions and society, in addition to limit transmission of infectious diseases inside and outside healthcare centers. It was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Saif Al-Hosni, Under Secretary of the Ministry of Health for Health Affairs. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos receives the written messages from His Highness, the President of United Arab Emirates and the Prime Minister of Singapore. On behalf of His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Shihab bin Tariq Al Saeed received His Excellency the Vice President and Prime Minister of Yemen. Representing His Majesty the Sultan, His Highness Shihab bin Tariq Al Saeed heads the Sultanate's delegation to the 15th consultation meeting of the GCC countries in Riyadh. And instilling values and traditions in children tops discussions of the Child Culture Seminar in Nizwa. With that, we come to an end to tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, good night.